Hi, my name is Dr. Paula Rosen. I'm the publisher of Education Update here in New York City, and it's my great honor to be here with a superstar athlete, Patrick Anderson, who is a Canadian. He went to college in Illinois, and he is now a student at Hunter College here in New York City. So, Patrick, can you tell us a little bit about your, what I call a triumph of the human spirit in overcoming the odds because you were in a horrendous accident when you were 9 years old?
Well, where to begin? I guess I come from a small town in Canada, a lot of siblings, big family, played a lot of sports growing up. And when I was 9, I was at a friend's place, and his parents came home, and they had been drinking, and they were arguing, and they sort of lost control of the car and ran into me and some other kids that were in front of the house. So fortunately, no one else was hurt, but I was pinned between the car and the house and lost my legs below the knee on both sides. So that started, obviously that shook up not only my world, but my family's world quite a lot. But 42 days later, I was out of the hospital and eager to get back into sports and into school and just get back to normal life as much as that was possible.
How did you manage that? Because I think that most adults, certainly, and kids would feel very depressed or feel sorry for themselves. How do you go from a point of difficulty to resuming your activities? Who helped you to do that?
Well, there's a few things I'd say about that. One, who helped me? I had a pretty, I like to say I'd had the softest landing as you can imagine. From the community to family, friends, church that we belonged to. Not only myself, but my family received a lot of support in very practical ways and just in so many different ways. The other thing is, I think there's a distinction that is fair between things like this that happen to adults and kids. And I think just being young, I didn't really have a lot of life plans at the age of 9, and so I think you probably find, I don't have statistics for you, but that, kids bounce back from these kind of things, are pretty resilient, have short memories, don't hold grudges. That works in your favor when something like this happens. And there wasn't a moment, I had depressed moments when I felt depressed, but they were kind of few and far between. And for the most part, I was just really eager to, just to be active again, especially, right, and play music again and things like that. And, and there were silver linings. I spent my 10th birthday in the hospital just 6 days after my accident. But in one respect, it was, the best Christmas of my life. I went from receiving tube socks and Nicky cars.
You got a lot of
recession
presents.
And
you had extra presents.
Big family. I got a Nintendo. I got a lot of stuff I'd never had before. So that part was exciting. So, the silver lining to every cloud.
Any particular mentor that helped you along the way at any phase of your schooling? Or maybe mentors?
Well, it's easier for me to think of, basketball mentors, to be honest. Right after I got hurt, I was fortunate to meet wheelchair basketball players who'd been to the Paralympics, and right away, inspired me with their stories and how well they could play.
You mean when you were young, when you were a teenager?
I was 10.
Oh, really?
Just a year after. Some people who acquire an injury don't discover disabled or adaptive sports for a long time.
Right.
And I was one of the lucky ones who was introduced to wheelchair basketball just a year after I got hurt, so I got to get into it right away.
Your parents knew about those sports
Actually,
figures? Who was the one who introduced you?
I think a few different people did simultaneously, but one of them was the principal of my school. He found out about a wheelchair sports camp and informed us about it, and I went and tried it out. Basketball was what I fell in love with. But school-wise, I don't know. I remember my best friend, for a time, we used to walk home and compare report cards with each other. And so in a sense, she inspired me by being my competitor, I guess, not only in sports, but in academics. You know, at a young age, I was very kind of competitive about it, and that's not a very deep source of motivation for education, I've found. But that's kind of what, in some ways, fueled me as a kid in a lot of different respects.
So we can give a woman some credit
Sure,
for this.
yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
What about when you said you walked home with this classmate of yours? Were you outfitted with prosthetic devices at that time, or were you in a wheelchair?
I used a wheelchair for a long time. This is another story, but the short version is, you know, I had a lot of trouble finding prosthetics that fit and were comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so until I was about 21, I had prosthetics, but until I was 21, I primarily used a wheelchair and would wear legs kind of ceremonially for things, but
Sure.
couldn't really walk very far with them. But I was sponsored coming out of success that we had in Athens, our first gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
A prosthetic company sponsored me for a year. In their eyes, they saw this 21-year-old athlete who wasn't walking and thought it was kind of ridiculous. And in a sense, they were right. So anyway, they took me on and very aggressively kind of tried a bunch of different things and finally got me up and walking. I'm still walking on one of the legs that they made me, and the other one is built off something that they did. So,
was it a new technique that they were using? And how come? And if it wasn't new, then why didn't you have it before?
There's a lesson here about the limits of technology, or at least the limits of the hope we place in technology, because it had nothing to do really with a new technology came along that suddenly fit. It was just finding the right. No offense to prosthetists that I had growing up, but the right prosthetist and someone you can communicate with, and someone who's really not that my prosthetist wasn't motivated, but someone that was extremely motivated to find a solution that really worked. And so it came down to just human initiative more than anything. We tried some more cutting-edge technologies. In the end, we kind of scaled back and used some more socks and leather and some older techniques to find just kind of the right thing.
So there was experimentation going on. It wasn't something that was out there in the field. You said, hey, this is the thing for you.
No, because, there were cutting-edge things, and there's far more now, but the most important thing with prosthetics is that it's comfortable. And a lot of those advances have to do with feet and knee joints and things like that. But if you don't have a socket that's comfortable, then it doesn't matter what's attached to the bottom. You don't want to walk on it. So,
right, sure. So was it a Canadian company that developed something that you liked?
No, it was Hanger Prosthetics and Orthotics, and they're, I think, a U.S.-based company. I was just with them for a year, and then I was absorbed back in the Canadian sort of healthcare system. We picked up where we left off with Hanger, and they took it from there. And
right.
Like I said, I'm still walking on these now. I hope nothing ever happens to them, because they're like an old pair of slippers.
That's
great.
Such,
like lightning in a bottle when it happened. So
that's great. Just great. So what about intermediate school and high school? Did you participate other than sports? Did you participate in like a school play, or did you have a good time? Did you enjoy your studies?
School. Are you talking about high school or?
Yeah, high school.
Oh,
there's got to be a joke here if you're smiling.
No, just thinking back through the haze of my 20s to what was high school about. Oh, I don't know if we're allowed to jump around here, but I should say all that stuff about my legs before. On the other hand, I really pushed back against orthopedic or occupational therapists and people who always wanted me to walk and tried to sort of, in their minds, sort of there was a stigma attached to the wheelchairs, and I came up against that kind of stigma, and it always kind of bothered me. Because I found a wheelchair a really liberating piece of equipment. It helped me keep up with my friends, and when I got into sports, it was a piece of sports equipment.
Right.
So to me, and to this day, I kind of hold those things kind of, they're both gifts in my mind, like my legs and my chair, and depending on what I want to do.
So you don't find a wheelchair is a stigmatizing?
No, I never had a problem with it. And if anything, it's been a really empowering thing. So on the other hand, I really benefited from the attitude that these prosthetists had at Hanger. They did kind of see a wheelchair as a limitation, and wanted to get me out of the wheelchair.
Right.
And because of that attitude, I got up and walking. So it's not really a simple picture, but all I have to say, I love my legs, I love my chairs, depending on what the day calls for. So I'm really lucky to have those options.
But you have such a positive attitude toward life.
Well, a lot of things to feel positive about, one thing, maybe. The accident is one thing, but all these good things that came out of it are multiple and continue to grow. And so I have so much more to be thankful for than.
Well, do you think that you would have, I know you got a basketball scholarship to the University of Illinois. I don't know if that's the reason that you went to the United States, but
yes.
But I'm sure it was a factor. Do you think you would have gotten that if you hadn't been handicapped in this way?
Would I have been a good enough athlete to get an athletic scholarship?
Right. I mean, maybe you said there's a silver lining in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the terrible accident led to becoming so outstanding in Paralympics. I don't know.
Well, certainly, whatever athletic course I was on, it sent me on a different one. And that's, speaking back to your question about high school, I spent more time probably thinking about basketball than I did about school. I mean, I got good grades in school, and actually I finished a year earlier than my classmates because I was eager to get down to Illinois and be part of this wheelchair basketball program.
Great.
And I was a very curious student. I was good at math, but curious about other subjects, and that's sort of a blessing and a curse, to be honest. But so I was eager to kind of get into the academic environment of a Big Ten, big university.
Sure.
That was exciting for a while.
Was college fun? How about the social scene? Any stigma in that regard?
Well,
and I know you're married, so we can't talk about other women.
Oh.
Right?
You can talk about my mom.
Okay.
Sisters. No, I guess. University was great. I mean, I didn't finish at Illinois. I left in my 5th year, and as we speak, I'm 3 days away from finally finishing this BA that I started in 1997.
What did you major in? It's never too late.
What didn't I major in?
Okay. You're a Renaissance man.
Yes.
You liked everything.
Yeah. I mean, some of 15 years I'd tried to study math and then French and history, and then I left as a history major. I went to community college in Canada and did jazz guitar for a little while, and then I ended up here and I'm finishing a music degree here. So anyway, I have sort of self-condemning thoughts sometimes about Illinois. I didn't leave in the best of terms, but athletically, it was it was great. I mean, academically as well. I don't think I stagnated exactly. I ran into some troubles with balancing being a student athlete. It's a challenging thing, especially if you try to take both seriously. And I don't know how much you want to get into it, but I should have studied math, but I didn't because it's just interesting how these things work. I registered late, so I couldn't get into the usual chalk and blackboard calculus section, and the only sections that were open involved computers in this mathematical program with 3-dimensional representations of calculus formulas. And I was, one of the best calculus students in high school. All of a sudden, I didn't understand anything. And I'm convinced that if I had got into a conventional section, it would have been different. Yeah, sure. I probably would have stuck with math, which is something that I was always able to get done, no matter how much stress was going on. I could at least get it done. And then I got into sort of French and history, and it came with that, like deadlines and papers and all this stuff that really piled up, and I got behind the 8 ball. So,
but how did you develop a love of music? And it's been said that there's a strong link between music and math. So did you start playing an instrument when you were young, or how did the interest in music develop?
Yeah, I mean, my family, they're no professional musicians, but it was a very musical household, and we grew up singing a lot of songs. You need someone to strum the guitar or plunk out the chords on the piano. So that's kind of what I did. I took lessons starting when I was 7 or 8, not classical, but just learning how to
guitar lessons?
Piano lessons.
Piano, okay.
But I always found that interesting looking back, that my teacher kind of asked me as a 8-year-old, 7-year-old what I wanted to study. For some reason, I don't know why my parents wouldn't have had an opinion about it, but she just kind of held out classical music or sort of pop sort of music. And
what did you choose? The
I
pop?
chose like the pop music that corresponded with kind of like songs we were singing at church and stuff that I listened to. And
right.
And years later, I kind of, in a sense, wish, not always regrets, I kind of wish I'd done the classical, but
it's never too
that's
late.
kind of, well, no, I
You
take
could do
lessons
it.
with my wife who studied classical piano at school.
So she's your teacher.
She's my teacher now. So I'm getting
Okay.
into it. Better late than never. I mean, studying classical sort of curriculum in the
Right.
classroom.
So you're studying classical music here at Hunter?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a performance degree. It's
Right. But you're
general.
planning to get a degree in music?
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
is there anything that you'd like to share? Because you're such an inspiration. Your life, the way you've worked things out against really defying odds. What can you say to young people, particularly young people, who are grappling with problems in life, and what should they do to overcome, to surmount their problems? Do you have any special words of wisdom to share? Or?
I don't know. It seems like a very big, obviously weighty question, and people's struggles are so particular.
Right. So let's say that
It's hard
somebody
to generalize.
let's say that somebody has a physical problem. Whether it's an illness, a cerebral palsy, or muscular dystrophy, or an accident, as you had. What do you suggest that they can do to forge ahead and to? I mean, you used a wonderful term, the silver lining. Would you say look for the silver lining?
I think I grew up, like one of the best things about growing up in the church with a Christian worldview is that I just grew up with the sense that there was something more more fundamental about people than something like their disability. I don't think, or other physical attributes, or all these kind of other things that we peg our sort of self-esteem or identity on. I was always taught and believe still that it goes much deeper than that. So I was blessed with that heritage, and I think in some ways it's carried over into how I think about this. Is a roundabout way to answer that maybe, but I benefited from a particular. Let's talk about basketball because that's what I talk about best. In Canada, we allow able-bodied players to play, so it's not just disabled players; it's a mix. And there's a few other countries in the world that do that, but not really a lot. And I always felt very fortunate about that because, when I grew up, it was very hard for me to watch my friends play sports. It meant so much to me. I wanted to be out there sort of testing myself. Whatever makes boys and girls want to do that, I had that in a bad way, and I really wanted to be out there, and I couldn't. But when I got on the basketball court, it was my chance. I think, if it was limited just to other disabled players, it would have been a different experience. The fact that I was out there in a wheelchair playing wheelchair basketball against disabled players, but also able-bodied players, sort of tweaked in a good way my self-image and my identity as an athlete. I was a disabled athlete, but as an athlete. And so, to this day, I try to talk about it as much as I can with people that will listen to encourage even more of that kind of integration.
Right.
So whether that's sports or whatever, I kind of coordinating disabled people off and treating them as a group that's important in legal ways and other ways. I don't know, but more than anything, the opportunities to sort of naturally bridge that kind of gap and not focus on the disability, but on whatever the task is, winning a basketball game or making an album or something. So that's kind of my approach. And that experience meant a lot to me. It still means a lot to me.
I think that's such an important point because one of the things that we've done in special education in the United States is a word called inclusion. And we try to blend the kids with disabilities and have them study in the same classes with those kids who don't, who are able-bodied. And it's very important for both sides to see each other and work with each other and study with each other. So tell us a little bit about the medals and how you felt. And you've won several of them. So tell us some of the medals that you've won. And I know, of course, the gold medal in 2012.
Right. Yeah, we won gold in 2000, 2004, and then 2012. The one I don't care to talk about is 2008. Although it was silver. I guess it's not bad. But
okay, we're not going to talk about it.
But
We will honor your wishes. So tell us about the triumphant feelings in 2012, particularly this last one. I mean, you're a superstar.
Yeah, it felt really good, better than I thought it would. I thought it was just going to feel like relief because I came back to the team after sort of taking a break from wheelchair basketball, at least at the competitive level, and I thought I was done with it. When I came back, I kind of came back for reasons that I just thought the games were going to be really special in London, and the Paralympic movement was going to take a real step forward. I wanted to be part of that, and I wanted to show off a little bit. But after I decided to come back, it was just my body didn't always cooperate. Getting the right chair was difficult at times. My wheelchair setup, and I just hit some snags I never really hit before. And so the fact that it was sort of an intentional decision to come back, and also that it was sort of a rockier road to get there personally, meant that much more. For those reasons, it meant that much more when we won. Also, my wife, was there for the first time, and some other friends and family that hadn't seen it before, and so that was certainly special.
So you had to show them.
Yeah, when it came down to it,
you had to make it worth the trip for them.
There's a real sort of there's a real easy out sometimes when you've had some success, and I've been there, done that. It's a real easy excuse for not digging deep, competing as hard as you can. But when your wife's up there and people are up there,
sure,
thinking,
they're all.
We didn't come all this way to see you. Kind of, whatever. It's just a show. I'll show you my old medals. They want in the moment, and they want to win.
Right.
But you better shape up. And
You've got to perform.
I've fed off that energy.
Why did you leave? You left sports for a while. You said because you came back to this.
Well, I started on the national team when I was 17, so I'd already been playing a long time. 2006, we won the World Championships, and after that moment, like something really snapped as soon as we won that, because it's sort of the last thing on my checklist that I wanted to do and accomplish. It's never been the same since. I'm not maniacally competitive.
Okay.
So
that changed.
I mean,
so what did you do in the interim?
Kid, I was, but
in the interim between 2006 and 2012, what were you doing?
Well, I came back in 2008.
Okay.
So I was kind of in and out of the national team.
Okay.
I started out 2010, for instance. I was in Vancouver, living in Vancouver, Canada. I was still very much involved in the sport, but I was more focused on grassroots development. I helped start a house league for able-bodied athletes at a university, or a mix of people.
Right.
I started studying jazz guitar, as I mentioned, and getting into music. That was always something that was on the back burner I always wanted to get to, when basketball wasn't so important anymore. It wasn't as important anymore. So you plan to continue with the music when you graduate from here? Yeah, in one way or another. I mean, I went to study, I don't know what I was doing studying jazz. I don't know what I'm doing studying classical music, other than I'm a Renaissance man. I like to broaden my horizons, and it's frustrating when I don't have the technical ability and to dig deeper into either repertoire, but I still really value both experiences for just broadening my appreciation and understanding for music, and I have no idea where it's going to go. But I'm excited
that's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll compose?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really
Possibility.
don't know.
You never know. You might compose a hit song.
Yeah, my wife, she's about to release an album of her original songs, and it's inspiring. I just heard one of the final mixes this morning, and it sounds beautiful.
What genre? Classical?
She plays piano. She's piano voice and bass guitar on this album. So she's classically trained and studied film scoring at NYU, and now she's writing songs for now. So
that's terrific. You may collaborate with her. Who knows?
Yeah.
You may make the next album will be yours and hers.
Tune her piano for her. Yeah, no, I'd love to be just Eddie's support. I think she's really talented, and maybe I'll just be your wingman. Yeah. I'd be happy with that.
Well, I want to thank you so much for giving us this time. I know how busy you are, and if we ever need music lessons or basketball lessons, we know where we can go.
Basketball, I might be able to help you with.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And I want to thank my two associates here at Education Update for filming, and we have Erica Anderson and we have Jen McGregor. I thank you both for being here. So thanks so much.
You're welcome.